To Queensland's Channel Country now, and the rangelands that invariably tend to swing between nature's extremes. After a decade of drought, the region's now experiencing the flow-on effects of its third big wet in a row. A bumper season tempered by a high dollar and disruptions to the live cattle trade. The one constant is the community's resilience, as Kathy McLeish discovered in Boulia.
In the bush, working with stock starts at a young age.
Look at this for a finish. Boy, oh boy, look at the pace. Oh, crosses the line. Put the hands together, ladies and gentlemen.
Here's your little ribbon.
Are you ready?
And it's not too long before the kids give their folks a run for their money.
You know, got to have some competition out there. Make it a bit fun, a bit lighthearted.
A bit more competition than you anticipated?
Yeah, just a little bit.
But the Boulia Gymkhana and Rodeo weekend is much more than competition. It's a time to be neighbourly, even though neighbours here are often few and far between.
It's not our big yards the size of your heart, and that's what, you know, I probably could be biased, you know, been here forever and the fifth generation, but, you know, I do a fair bit of travelling now with my role as a Boulia mayor, and there's no place that I'd rather be than coming home.
The Boulia Shire covers a fair swag of far west Queensland, and Mayor Rick Britton has travelled much of it.
Yeah, 62,000 square kilometres. It's got an odd road or two, and
but only 450 people live in that huge landscape, and many of them are enjoying the community spirit this weekend.
Yeah, the rodeo's a big part of what makes us all sort of be able to be together and spend that time together, and really a great positive time for the people of the bush to have an outlet and a get together, you know.
Young challengers have come in from far and wide to put their skills and their courage to the test for a very country kind of prize.
for the buckle, if you can believe that. It must be like girls' jewellery. You know, it's the buckle. You know, the prize money is nothing. It's that buckle that you go. It's a bragging right at the bar that night. And I think the shiny sparkle must just take all that pain away. You know, see someone who rides time, or if he gets hurt, and doesn't win, he's sore for a long time. If he gets hurt and wins, oh, he's up and bouncing around.
The 2010
Come on,
champion,
bud.
LJ Khan.
See if you can make it 2 times in a row.
You're right, bud.
Llewellyn Khan came to defend his 2010 station buck jump title. But this year, the horse has taken the honours.
Hey,
how are you going?
oh, a bit lot better now that I'm off it.
So how are you? You all right? Hurt?
Yeah, just a bit stiff in the leg, but yeah, just keep walking, we'll be right. I won last year's, but maybe next year, eh?
Rick Britton says the rodeo is a chance for young jackaroos and gillaroos to let off steam.
And it's just the challenge and the thrill of it. It's adrenaline rush.
Bit of a rough day at the office today.
Oh yeah, it was my first time, eh? Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think? Would you be back?
Oh yeah, for sure. That's not going to scare me. A little injury, I'll be back.
And it looks like you got lots of mates and friends and...
Oh yeah, I saw my in-laws, Mrs. family.
Chance for everybody to get together?
Yeah, just a chance to get together and have some fun.
Yeah, radio's always been what sort of keeps us going, you know.
It's more than sport. It's a gathering of Australians who can live isolated lives at times. So getting together means a great deal.
The station's coming in there, and just with all the dramas and whatever happens around, you get to talk and say, well, how are you handling it? And all of a sudden, if you have problems, you realise that you're not the only one with those problems. So it's good therapy. Yeah, very much so.
The Boulia Rodeo is over for another year. Now all that's left to do is get together at the barbecue,
have a couple of drinks at the bar. A lot of the young riders have already loaded up and headed back to properties because tomorrow they'll work. But many are still here, and while they are, they'll take the opportunity to share some knowledge about another very important aspect of their lives in cattle country.
Oh, well, Boulia Shire is in one of those, capital of the Channel Country.
It's not a description the locals take lightly. Set between the headwaters of the Georgina River and the Diamantina River, the Boulia Shire forms part of the Lake Eyre Basin.
It's a bonus. You've got the best of both worlds. A lot of the country here, if we don't get the rain, we're in 9.5-inch rainfall country. If we don't get the wet season, our channel country is our saviour. We can carry on to it. If we do get the rain and the river at the same time, we can turn off some massive heavy cattle.
This is Big Sky country and home of the Mitchell Grass Downs, extraordinary grazing country.
Well, Channel Country, it just spreads out. We're probably here ourselves, probably got about 50,000 acres, if you can picture that going underwater. And the moisture that it puts into the ground, you can't have rainfall. You can't have 20 or 30 inches of rain. Won't put the moisture down into the ground. And that's where the Channel Country, it just runs out, spreads and soaks into that soil. So it's actually like soaking your lawn, every 5 or 6 months. It really does grow the feed.
The grasslands are driven by the harshest extremes of flood and drought, as they have been for the history of grazing in the Channel Country.
We've got a big landscape here. You can't dictate what you do with this country. You need to work with it. Mother Nature makes the rules and you've got to play her game. And it's a lot of management in that. You've got to be aware of what your livestock are doing, how your livestock will respond, and also what the country is responding on different seasons.
During this year's wet season, the Georgina River was 70 kilometres wide in Boulia. But 3 years ago, a decade of drought had the district on its knees. This country can usually run 200,000 head of cattle. After 10 years of drought, it was down to just 1,600. Local grazier Kelsey Nielsen says Boulia's people have learnt to pace themselves.
The cycles between the good and bad years can be a decade. So you need to be here for the long haul to be part of the good and bad seasons. We're so connected to our land, absolutely, totally connected to our land. And it's not only for ourselves, it's for our children and their children. We do see that land management out here as a generational thing. And yes, we have to obviously run a viable business, but it's more about staying connected and looking after that land for the future generations.
As part of that stewardship, locals have invited in an expert to help them preserve and protect.
This is a poster showing 3 different Mitchell grass plants, all grown under exactly the same conditions.
Dr. David Phelps is a scientist with the Queensland Government specialising in Mitchell grass. But he says he's not the only expert on the subject.
People who've managed their country for 20 or 30 or 50 years, however long it might be, they've got an intimate knowledge of their land. And so being able to bounce some of the science around with people's practical observations and experience, it's just terrific learning for all of us. If you can ensure that you've got good, healthy Mitchell grass and a good density of Mitchell grass in the pastures, then you can ensure your production into the long term. So not just perhaps the next 6 or 12 months of production, but we're talking the next 6 or 12 years of production. It really is about working with the rainfall patterns that you receive out here.
But there's more than the weather which affects these producers. The bottom line is these are businesses. The market for stock has ebbs and flows. It's taken 3 years to build up the herds after drought. All were banking on this being a profit-making season.
This season, to me, when everything before the live export was going to be the niche. We had feed, we had fat cattle, we had all the stars were lined up, and all of a sudden come along and pull the rug out or something like that. So you know, it was a bit of a kick in the backside. So, and we're going to have a lot of access steers come through. That's going to put a damper on the store market.
Got 200,000 head of cattle that would normally go off our shores, so they are now required to come back into southern markets. So they must corrupt the markets at 3 different levels. You'll have them coming in as store cattle because they are not slaughterable now. They need to grow and fatten. So they're going to affect the store market originally. Then in 12 months' time, when they do grow and fatten, they'll come out at once and affect that market. And then when they actually are slaughtered and they're in boxes of beef, that amount of extra beef will affect that market.
Kelsey Nielsen says she was horrified by the images of animal cruelty which led to the temporary ban, but warns that closer to home there is suffering too.
I'm quite concerned about the mental state of a lot of cattle producers across the north because of the fact that they have struggled for so long, and I'm one of them, through 10 years of drought, and I know what that's like and the toll it takes on you emotionally. And they had just actually seen the light at the end of the tunnel, had some grass in the paddocks, they had their cattle numbers rising, and they were seeing a future. And now that's just been taken away from them. And I'm really very concerned about people. To the compassionate Australians who want live export banned, I would say to them that I understand their compassion, but they don't understand, and that a ban is not the answer. And that we can find a solution that helps animal welfare and keeps Northern Australia, the guardians of the outback, keeps them viable on their properties.
No doubt there's more ups and downs to be had in cattle country. But over this weekend at least, a couple of days of serious and sometimes idle chatter will help build resilience.
Our community is very strong because we all know each other. We all know our faults and our weaknesses, and we accept those, and we work together, and we all help each other out. If there's a crisis, we know we can rely on our friends and neighbours. You know, it's like a big family, and it's a real advantage of living in a small community. We wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
Isolated, but not alone.
Every person who lives in Booyah is a very important part of our community in that linkage, yeah, and that's what makes it so great.